I am priest and officer and consagad of I.S.U.P.K. Atlanta, which started out of Harlem 125th Street under commanding General Yahanna. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite school or Hebrew Israelite camps, if you will. We are the home of the truth. If it is not under commanding General Yahanna, you are not in the truth. I'm going to give you the itinerary for the week. Mondays we have our history class. Tuesday we have our brotherhood class. Tonight we have our law class. Thursday we have scripture breakdown. Friday we have our Lashawan Kodash, which is our original language in the Hebrew. Saturday we have camp, or first we have Sabbath class from 12 to 1, then we have camp. Before I get started, are there any questions? Okay. All right, since we don't have any questions, the topic of my class tonight is fearless. That's what we're going to be discussing tonight. Before I get started, do we have any other callers on the phone? All right. Shalom, Yahanna, Shem, Yahanna. What's going on, warrior? You Tawab?
You?
Tawab, excellent. Good to hear from you.
Most I pray.
All right, now as I get started, once again, the name of the class, the topic of the class is fearless. And it's something that we need to instill in our men. Have someone on the call? All right.
That's like it's there, my phone says like.
Okay. We need to get into what it is to be fearless and understand that it's something that is not found in the Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian homes. And the reason why you can't find men who are fearless is because they don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments. They've allowed the oppressor to infiltrate, to come into their homes and to basically control their wives, to control their children, to control how they move in their life. And basically the foundation of that is from Christianity. Because Christianity doesn't teach you what it is to be courageous. Now, the Christian pastor he's definitely one to give you a lot of, I guess you can say, quotes, things that sound good. They love to talk about being courageous, but they have no idea what that actually is. Because if we had more men that had courage, if you look at every street corner in America, and every street corner just about there's a church in all the cities. And on all those corners, there are cowards on those corners. Cowards who are selling our brothers and sisters drugs. Cowards who are killing each other. Cowards who are loving to run after the oppressor, to do what the oppressor says to do. Those are cowards. You see no one on these corners except for the men of the I.S.U.P.K. trying to go out and teach our brothers and sisters what it is to survive in this hell that we're living in. As I go through the topic tonight, I'm going to give a couple of examples of fearless brothers who are in the truth, or fearless brothers in the Bible. One of them mainly being Yahushua. In the Hebrew, we call him Jesus ignorantly, Jesus Christ. But you're going to understand that not only that it took courage for him to die for us, but all the things that led up to him dying, all the things that led up to him getting on that cross and being tortured. I'm going to touch on some things with David and Goliath, but also I'm going to go into 2 Maccabees, I believe it's chapter 7, and we're going to talk about the brothers and the mother who died for not eating swine's flesh, not eating swine. And one of the things that I want to put out there is, when you talk to Christians and tell them, of course, milk, things like not eating pig, not eating swine, it's something that they act as though they can't stop doing. When you talk to them about celebrating these heathen holidays, it's something that they can't stop doing. But what you have to understand is this. You have these men out here who swear that they're warriors, but if you're a warrior and you can't stop eating swine, if you're a warrior and you can't stop celebrating holidays that aren't in the Bible and not celebrating your holy days, then how can you say that you're not a coward? How can you say that you're fearless? That's a small task. When I found out that eating things that were unlawful, of course, was a sin, that was against the Most High, I immediately stopped. Immediately. I didn't think about, well, that tastes good or anything like that. I was done with it. When I found out that these holidays were pagan holidays and they had nothing to do with Israel, that they weren't holy days, I immediately stopped doing it. Now, will I say that the holidays were easy to stop? At first, there was a little friction because I'm normally the person within my family who likes to provide for my mother, provide for my father, for my sister. I like to see the joy that they get from gifts. So when I stopped giving them things, of course I felt a certain type of way. Of course I felt a certain type of way because I knew that it was affecting them, but they didn't think about how it was affecting me. But I understand that this truth comes first. I understand that I'm not going to follow these laws. If I don't follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, that I'll die. So regardless of how they feel, regardless of their feelings about me not doing certain things, I knew what I was supposed to do. And it took courage, I'd say, to do that from the beginning. Now it's nothing for me. It's second nature to not partake in these heathen holidays. But when I talk about that, it's more so leaning towards the people in the world. When you try to explain to them and you can show them biblically that they're not supposed to follow these holidays, they get upset or they start to talk about their children. They're led by their children, I guess you can say. They don't want to offend their kids, or the husband doesn't want to offend his wife, the wife doesn't want to offend the husband, so they stay trapped in that cycle of continuing to do these things, when actually there's freedom once you come into this truth. There's freedom when you understand that we have all these different holy days that we can follow, that we can partake in. I mean, the Most High knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing because he knew that Israel likes to get out and to be with each other, and to drink, to get out there and do their thing. So we have all these days these feast days that we celebrate. So when you come into that and understand that's what you have to ask yourself, well, what am I missing? There's nothing that you're missing when you leave from the world. But it takes courage to walk away from it. It takes courage to be separate, to be holy. Because when you're in the world will love you as its own. But when you come away from it, they will look at you, they'll shun you, they'll wonder what it is that you're doing. So as I continue to give you that foundation of fearlessness, and just looking at something like that, we're not even talking about physically going to war yet. Physically and or spiritually when we're out on these street corners. We're talking about just the milk of the scriptures of stop following these holidays and stop eating things that you shouldn't eat. You don't have the courage to stop doing that, so there's no way you can fight for your people. It's impossible for you to go out and say, I'm pro-black, but you can't stop eating pork, when you know that even through science, not even looking at it biblically, that you're not supposed to eat these things because of what it does to you, because it's a filthy animal and the toxins that are within it. You don't even have to be in the truth, so to speak, to even understand that part of it, but yet you still do it. It's because you want to fulfill that lust. You think that it tastes good when actually you're eating dung, for lack of better words. So don't say anything about you're fearless and you are pro-black when you can't stop eating pork, because that's a small thing. So the topic of the class of speaking about fearlessness is pointing to blacks, Hispanics, and Arabian men. Right now, with all the things that are going on in the world today, the chaos of the civil unrest, every week there's something new on the news. There's something new about a possible war here. or possible war there. And now we brought, 75,000 people from Afghanistan here to America. And there are people who are fearful of that, but they are also fearful of Israel. And the reason why they're fearful of Israel, not only due to the lack of knowledge, but they fear what they hate. And because they hate us, that's why Haitians aren't allowed to come here. But you brought potential mass murderers, potential, what are they called? What are the guys called? The bombers from Afghanistan. Go ahead, Ott.
Block you out of one.
Go ahead.
Suicide bombers.
There you go. There you go. The suicide bombers.
Right.
You know, we bring them here, and there's no fear, I guess, as a whole from your oppressor of them. But we do have people who fear them. Now, fear in the world is not what it is when you come into this truth. We understand that when we follow the Most High, and we follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, we know what He tells us. He tells us to be fearless, to be courageous. Now, when you think about, I guess you can say, the situation with, I guess, the people from Afghanistan coming here, or anything that's going on when it comes to the police doing things to us, anything that would cause man to be weak and fearful is happening now. And they have nowhere, I guess you can say, to turn. They do have a place to turn to, but they won't turn to the truth. So they find other things to involve themselves in. For example, you have these groups like the New Black Panther Party or the NFAC. I dare to say Black Lives Matter, but these people that are, I guess you can say, the ones that I'm leaning towards are a little bit more militant. You would think that they are fearless, but they're not. They're still afraid because the majority of them, they're still following the way of their oppressor. They still don't have the ability to lead their people, because the only way you can create something that can lead your people is by pointing them to the truth, by pointing them to these laws, statutes, and commandments. They need to understand that without that, we'll succumb to every thought process of anything that, I guess, that comes our way, be it man or any type of adversity. But what I want Black, Hispanics, and Native Indians to understand is that now is not the time to be afraid. You have to be a warrior. Give me 2 Timothy 1:7, Trooper Mashallah. The book of 2 Timothy 1:7. Just giving you like some basics that we were given. Read that when you got it.
Khan, sir. The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 1 and verse 7. For the Most High hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of sound mind.
Now, the Most High has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and of sound mind. He's letting us know. We're going to be reassured throughout this as I go into the class of how we're supposed to operate. Now, of course, you're not going to have a sound mind if your mind isn't focused on the laws, statutes, and commandments. You have to be sober in this truth. But the only way to be sober in it is to be following the laws, statutes, and commandments, because that's the foundation. You can't operate with any power or love if you're not following the laws, statutes, and commandments. So the Christian church isn't teaching you any of these things. Now, they may say this verse, but they're not going to tell you what it is to have the foundation of how you are to apply that to your life. See, the Christian church will say a lot of verses. Well, they won't even say a lot. They'll use 1 or 2. But they don't tell you the breakdown. They don't expound upon it to teach you what it is to have that foundation of what it is to not to be afraid. I know for myself, coming from where I come from, growing up in Chicago, I experienced a lot of different things. And with that, as a child, I guess you can say growing up, the things that I would do, a lot of grown men weren't doing. Yahweh Shai for not being in that situation anymore, for not having the type of thought process and doing the things that I was doing then. But there wasn't a fear, but there was a stupidity. that I had. That stupidity of not knowing better, not knowing how I should operate, but just going because, yeah, I was going to church with my parents, but I wasn't being taught. I would still hit the streets and still do whatever. I wasn't being taught right from wrong. Now, of course, my father would tell me not to do this and not to do that. But if the foundation isn't with the law, then what is it? You can get your butt whooped, but really, you still aren't learning. But understanding that it says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Now that I'm in the I.S.U.P.K, and I'm not that we're counting birthdays, but I'm 46 years old. And I understand now what it is to be fearless. I understand now what it is to have wisdom, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So now I make wise decisions. Now, instead of hesitating in fear, now it's more so of a, let me be wise and think before I move, before I make the decision, before I put forth an action to do something. Because what I do affects my nation. What I do affects my brothers. What I do affects my sisters, especially if I'm out there when we're at camp. I can't be at camp with my brothers and not be in fear. Each and every Saturday while we're out there, there's no brother that are out there in the I.S.U.P.K that is fearful of anything. We go out there and we stand in the face of our oppressors. We go out there and stand in the face of our own people that absolutely hate us. People who threaten to take our lives, which they've done before, threaten to shoot us and kill us right there on the spot. But we aren't fazed by it. Speaking for myself, and I'm sure with other brothers, when I think about Christ and or any of the disciples and the fact of how they died, but they died in this truth, they died for this truth, I think of myself and say, what more glorious way, I guess you can say, that if I'm in battle while I'm out there with my brothers, it would be a beautiful thing, because I know that I'm going to be back. But to be with my brothers and know that I died in battle in this truth. Now, do I want that? I don't want that, but I don't fear it either. When I go out there, I expect to come back, but guess what? If we don't, then so be it. Because you can't go out there with fear. You have to go out there ready to go out there and speak to your people. When I go out there and I see my people, it encourages me even more. It makes me even more fearless, because it makes me angry to see the things that have done to my people and the plight that they're in. When I know that the lies that they've been taught by our oppressor, so I see them in the position that they're in, that angers me, and that anger fuels my fearlessness, because I know that I have to have myself prepared every single week to go out there and go to battle. I have to. I can't go out there weak. That's why we have the logo that we have in the I.S.U.P.K, no cowards. There are no cowards in this camp.
Right.
We can't have any cowards in this camp. And that started going all the way back to Commanding General Yahanna, which he taught to the men that are under him. They taught to the men that are under them, so on and so forth, all the way down to the troopers, to the young men. We teach those things because you have to come in and have a spirit upon you where men are going to be looking at you wondering, let me see if he's up for this task. Right now we have brothers who are out there in Hebrew Academy. I'm not going to go deep into Hebrew Academy, but I tell you what, you have to be a warrior to go out there and go to war with your brothers and go through this training to prepare yourself to do what it is that you need to do to protect the man that is next to you, to protect the man that is in front of you, or to protect the man that is behind you. You have to be fearless to do those things. You have to go out there for the blood of your brothers. If you're gonna be in these ranks and be a part of that upper echelon, to show that I'm willing to die for this, that right there is fearlessness. And for that, I just want to say Yahweh Shai for the I.S.U.P.K and Commanding General Yahanna raising up men to do these things. Because in the world, you will have brothers who get a part of gangs, and they'll think, I'm hard, I can do this. But anyone can go out there and just pull the trigger. But it takes fearlessness to see your brother who may have a gun pointed at you and not immediately take his head off. Because you're seeing him knowing, I'm about to destroy you. But you have that one moment to make that decision. What are you going to do? I know with myself, I've been in situations where my life could have been taken. And I accepted it. I was like, this might be it. This might be it. But yeah, there was fear. There was fear in those times. But now I'm encouraged when I'm around my brothers. When I go out there and we in these streets and I'm standing next to this brother, I'm standing next to this brother, I'm standing next to Officer Napash, any of the brothers that are in this school, and watching the men that are above me and see how they move, knowing for myself that these are men of the Lord, along with myself, that we've been ordained to go out there and cry aloud to our people. It takes fearlessness to do that. So in order to understand this, we know that we have to follow the law, statutes, and the commandments, and that's where we get our strength from. Trooper Mashallah, give me Deuteronomy 11 and 8. Baba Kashah. Deuteronomy 11 and 8. Read that when you got it.
Sir, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11 and verse 8. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land whither ye go to possess it.
Read that one more time for me, Baba Kashah.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11 and verse 8. Therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land whither ye go to possess it.
See, he's giving us an order. That's an order for us to be strong. We can't be weak and go out and do the things that we do, to go out and possess this land. We have to be strong to go and do that. We have to be strong. We have to speak aloud and let the people know why we are here. I find myself, when we're out there, the fear that people have is because they don't understand, or they don't take the time to be with their people. They don't understand what it is to have demons on someone. And I was talking to a brother last night, and it was very powerful of what he was saying. He was in a situation where he was with his family, and someone came and grabbed, there was a brother who came and grabbed his door trying to get in. Someone across the way was yelling at the brother saying, "Stop, stop, stop," and told the brother that I was speaking to, he said, "Man, don't hurt him, don't hurt him. He's been up on that ice, dope that he's on. He's geeked up." The brother I was speaking with, he had his firearm in his hand, and of course his wife was there with him. So by all accounts, if this brother would have continued and he needed to take care of him, he would. But in that moment, this brother used wisdom, and he was fearless, because a person who was afraid would have immediately shot. But he used wisdom, and he wasn't afraid, and he was able to look at this brother and see that he was destroyed. He saw that the demon of this drug was on him. So instead of taking his life, he took that moment, and the brother backed up. The man who was calling him, I guess he finally decided to walk away from the car and stop trying to get into it. So when you look at something like that, it's heavy for me, because in the world, immediately we would take the life. You wouldn't have the ability to stop and have that wisdom and understanding that the Most High is with you. Do I need to take this brother's life? Or do I give it a moment? And you can look at him and see, no, this brother needs help. I don't need to take his life from him. This brother needs help. So his life wasn't taken. And I don't know where this man is today. My brother that I was speaking with said he ended up seeing him some days later, and he was a homeless man laying off in some bushes. So when we look at the plight of our people, we have to have compassion, not be angry at them or be so quick to destroy or break them, but take a moment to look and gather our thoughts to see what it is that they're dealing with. Because in the world, in an instant, if it's someone in the street who saw that, they would have took his life. And that right there isn't being fearless, that's being a coward. That's what that is. Now, understand this, when it comes to the brothers in the I.S.U.P.K, no matter who you are, if you are oppressor or if you are Israel, we are obligated to putting you down. if you try to harm any of us. Understand, we will make sure that we leave from there, and more than likely you won't. Because we're going to protect our people. That's if you put us in a position to act like that. We are going to protect ourselves first and foremost. We're not going to have cameras out. We're not trying to film anything. We're going to make sure that our people are protected, and what happens from that will go around the city and around the state and around the world. Don't mess with the I.S.U.P.K. because we are not Christians. A Christian will get slapped in the face and they'll turn the other cheek. That's how they try to teach it. And then they'll get smacked in the face and they'll turn that cheek as well. There's no cheek turning here. So understand that. And as I continue to go into my topic about being fearless, do we have any questions on the phone or in the class? All right, excellent, excellent. Who do I have here? Officer Yahanna? Yabashim Yashar.
Good checking in.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let me get you written down here. Excellent. Okay, I'll continue. One of the things I want us to understand is that we fear because, and speaking of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, because what I've noticed is a lot of times the Black woman or the Hispanic woman, of course they have fear, but some of them have more courage, if you will, than the Black man and the Hispanic man. And the reason why that is because in the Christian church, you're taught the opposite. In the Christian church, the woman is taught to be fearless. She has been given the role of the man in the Christian church. And what happens is the spirit that comes on her is a masculine spirit, which causes her to be like a man, and she's more rambunctious. She's out there. She'll say something to anyone. But the feminine spirit is put on the man. And that's what happens within the Christian church. And the reason why I say that is because I've seen many households where the woman is leading the home. Of course, it's a Christian household, but she handles everything. If the man wants to do something, he has to get permission to do these things. And the reason why I'm saying this is, unfortunately, my parents have been married for 55 years. And they're Christian. And my father, growing up, he was definitely stern with me. But understanding the truth now and seeing how things move, both of them being 70 years old, my mother she is an anchor. She is what we call a dragon. And I've seen how she has sucked the life from him, and it's made him weak. The Christian church has facilitated that because the pastor, when he speaks and when he teaches, he caters to the women. This is nothing new for any of you. I'm sure that many of you have already heard this in the class and on the phone, that in the church, the pastor wants to make sure that he stays in the woman's mind, in her pocket, because he knows he's making it to where she's going to lead the household. So any decisions that are made are going to be ultimately made by her. When they're, for example, when my father tithes, it's not that he is tithing for just himself. He's tithing when he's sending it, although the church is closed, when he's tithing, he's... go ahead, Trooper Azariala.
Come on, sir.
Yahweh Shimei Asar B'Katah.
All the time, real heavy point, sir, if I may, which was real heavy what you're saying, you know what I mean? These so-called Christians, you know what I mean, they turn the other cheek. Not only that, you know what I mean, they'll go hug a murderer. A cold-blooded murderer. They'll go hug him and kiss him and pet his hair. And like it was brought out the other day, not only do they turn the cheek, but they'll spread the cheeks to lock you.
Unfortunately, pause. That is very true. That is very true, unfortunately. And go ahead, Ak.
So, every point you're bringing out, for me, the the world, the Christian church, however you want to say, like you said, they'll tell a woman that they're anchor and the foundation of the household.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but when you get into them scriptures and you understand the Bible, you know, having that man in the house, that's the foundation of it.
Correct.
But like you say, the Christian church, it pushes a different agenda. And if you're in the world, you know, you're not gonna know. You got men out here that'll sit back and let women take care of them and don't do nothing, and it just repeats itself over and over. It's a lot.
You are definitely correct. You are definitely correct about that. I'm gonna pull up. Let me see here. What you just said. Basically, give me Mark 3:27. The book of Mark, chapter 3, verse 27. To go to what you just said.
Kind, sir. The book of Mark, chapter 3 and verse 27.
Go ahead.
No man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house.
So, with that, you see that our oppressor has done an excellent job, unfortunately, of entering into the man's house and spoiling his goods. And there's many ways that's been done. If we look at child support, if we look at making sure that these sisters go to college and get up above their men. Now, when I say sisters go to college and get above their men, if we look in the corporate world, I work in the corporate world in this company where there's a lot of sisters, and what they do, you can see the masculinity on them, but you can see the fact that they've been put in a position of authority, what it has done to them and how they deal with their brothers. I watched it because there's a sister that's over me, and now she deals with me in a certain type of way because she doesn't understand that the Spirit of the Lord is with me. But I've watched how she deals with other brothers outside of me, and she talks down to them. She talks at them due to her education, and also obviously not understanding her role. But being put in that position, now when she's dealing with people, she acts like that. But here's what's funny. When she deals with our oppressor, she's submissive. I've watched it. I've paid attention to how she cowers down, and she's submissive to him. But the man, and more than likely these men are Christians, they don't have the ability to stand forth in front of her and speak the way they're supposed to. You know, they don't speak with aggression. They don't speak letting it be known and understood that, hey, you may be over me, but this is how you do things. She's above me within our job title, but she still comes to me with the questions. She still comes to me and she talks to me, or she asks me, she approaches me as a woman would approach a man. But the thing that's even bigger about that, and I'm not going to go deep into it, this woman is gay. Now, she's a black woman who's gay, and she plays the role of the boy, or whatever you call it. But when she deals with me, she acts like a woman. She'll say, "Excuse me, sir," or if I open the door, whatever, "Thank you, you're such a gentleman," blah, 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 because she understands she's dealing with a man. In the Christian church, these women don't think that they're dealing with men, so they don't treat them like that. You know what these women treat the men like? They talk to them like women, or they'll talk down to them. They talk to them, should I say, like the weaker vessel is how they speak to them. Matter of fact, give me the scripture that talks about the weaker vessel. Let's see here where we at with that. We're going to go ahead and bring that out real quick. Give me 1 Peter 3:7, Baba Kasha. The book of 1 Peter 3:7.
Come, sir.
Go ahead.
The book of 1 Peter, chapter 3 and verse 7. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered.
Now, stop right there. We have a responsibility, and this is, I'm not going to veer off of what we're speaking about with fearlessness, but I'm talking about the men being held accountable and doing what they need to do to be fearless, because if you're not fearless, you're not going to be able to keep your household intact. So when it's saying here, it's unto the weaker vessel, that's letting you know that the woman is the weaker vessel. The blood isn't going to be on her hands. The blood is going to be on our hands. The woman actually doesn't have to worry like the man does. So why would she not want to stay in her place? It's a beautiful thing for a woman to come into this truth and understand that she's going to be protected. Understand that being submissive is a power that she has. You're not going to find that outside of the truth. Now, you will find women who, how do I put it? For lack of better words, they aren't argumentative. Some of them have a soft spirit to them, and Most High willing, they will come into this truth. But for the most part, you have these aggressive women out there who are making the man the weaker vessel. The Christian church has made the man the weaker vessel. But in the I.S.U.P.K, and you'll hear me continue to say that throughout the night, the men here are not weak. We are not cowards. And because of that, we can stand strong and stand proud in how we move, because we're building a nation. We're doing whatever we can to make sure that our people are protected and that they're taught how to properly live in this hell that they're living. When I say properly live, meaning following these laws, statutes, and commandments. If you would, staying with the topic of being strong and courageous, give me the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31 and 6, Baba Kashai. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 6.
Donald Khan, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31 and verse 6. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee.
Read that for me one more time, Baba Kashai.
Donald Khan, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 31 and verse 6. Be strong and of good courage. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. For the Lord thy God, he it is that doth go with thee. He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee.
So the Most High is letting us know he won't forsake us. We know that he will never leave nor forsake us, but he tells us to be of courage, be of good faith. He's going to be with us while we're out here following these laws, statutes, and commandments. You can't be in this truth in I.S.U.P.K and not feel the strength that comes upon you once you come into this truth. I can go to my slavery every day knowing that I don't want to be in here with none of these goddamn Edomites, none of these heathens, knowing that they're looking at me wishing that I was dead. But the courage that it takes to go into my job and look them in the face and smile, knowing that you're going to be destroyed soon. You're going to be my slave. That lets me get through my day. I mean, it's simple. I love it. It could be 10 or 15 of them standing up, huddled up, talking. I'll walk right through as though I own the place, because I know who I am. I know that I'm a chosen people. I know that I'm Israel. I know that I'm in I.S.U.P.K, and I know that I follow these laws, statutes, and commandments, which gives me the strength and the life that I need to walk into any situation, and no matter what happens, know that I'm going to come out on top of it, no matter what the situation is. Go ahead, Op.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you said, like when you when you're dealing with people in the world and you know you're in the truth, you know, just me being a trooper, you know, I heard General Hyman say, you know, wherever you go, you're around people that's in the world, they're not in the truth. You're the high-ranking man there. So when I go to the grocery store, I go to the slavery, kids' school, I'm the highest-ranking man when I walk in the building.
Absolutely.
You know, for lucky.
Absolutely, Ak. That's heavy. And you know, I was gonna touch on that, so I'm glad you brought that out, because I brought that up to Trooper Mawasar. I brought that up to Officer Yakazak, and I'll tell you as well. When you say, "Well, I'm just a trooper," let me tell you something. You're not just a trooper. Just like General Muhammad has said, where you are, and there's no other people in the truth that aren't in the I.S.U.P.K, you are the highest ranking man there. So I look at Officer Yakazak. He lives in Cuthbert, Georgia. Little town, probably no bigger than this classroom that we're in. But he is the light that is out there. He's the only light in that area. I look at Mawasar, where he is over in College Park. He's the only light that is in that area. And where you live, isn't it Hiram?
Yes, sir. Yes, Hiram, Colorado Springs.
Right. So what we have to understand is where you are, and that's a powerful thing for you to stop and think about. You are coming into this truth as a trooper and soon to be an officer. You are in Hebrew Academy. You are a fearless man that is in this truth. You are the highest ranking man where you are right now. You're the light where you are right now. And the reason why I speak on that is because it was said to me whenever I went to, we went to Alabama. This was over a year ago. The Klan had just been out there. There was a lot of civil unrest. They went to one of those monuments because a lot of people were tearing them down. So we, along with several other schools in the I.S.U.P.K, went to Alabama where these Klan members were supposed to be. And of course there was no fear, and I was only a young man at the time. But we went there, and I remember one of the officers coming to me and saying, "What's your rank?" And I said, "Salaki, sir, I'm just a young man." And he said, "Don't say you're just a young man. You're in the I.S.U.P.K right now trying to become a trooper to try to become an officer. You're going to be a priest and a prophet. So where you are, you're the highest ranking man wherever you go, where there aren't men who are above you in the I.S.U.P.K. And that stuck with me. That stuck with me really hard because you understand the responsibility you have. And it also humbled me because we know that this truth was not something that we went and got, because the scripture says that the Most High, Christ chose us. The Most High chose us. We didn't choose him. So it humbles you to stop and think about it. Wow, you chose me. And I was nothing. A coward, if you will. They said, I'm going to make a strong man out of you so that no one can enter into your home. No one can spoil your goods. Our goods don't get spoiled in the I.S.U.P.K. We don't allow those things to happen. So walk with that courage and walk with that faith and understand, which I know that you do, of knowing that you're the highest ranking man wherever you are. That's a huge responsibility. I know when I'm at my slavery, not that I go there to try to teach anyone anything at my slavery, but they do know how I carry myself, and for the most part, a lot of them have seen some of the classes. They know who I am and what I believe. So with that, they understand, how to deal with me. They know that I'm no nonsense, but at the same time, I'm still approachable. You can still deal with me, but they know there's no compromising with me. We don't compromise in this truth, period. So with that, I'm going to continue. I'm going to ask for anybody that's on the phone, give me some examples, or anyone in the class, some examples of men in the Bible, men of Israel that weren't cowards. And I better hear one specific, but give me some examples. Go ahead.
I got two examples. I would say Yahushua and Moses.
Definitely. I mean, look at Yahushua. That's the most fearless brother, period. He was the example. Look at what he endured. Look at what happened to him. That right there is the example of fearlessness. He knew what was coming, and he took it. He knew what was coming. Look at Moses. Look at the responsibility that Moses had. Look at what he had to endure. Look at what he had to do. These are great examples of men who were fearless. And to build a nation, in order to build a nation, you have to be fearless. But what is the foundation of that? Following those laws, statutes, and commandments. Give me some more examples. don't have any more examples of what it is of men who are.
Slugger, sir.
Go ahead, Michael Lott.
It's me said, me said, dang, I forgot his name.
Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. God,
Right,
God. Indeed. Give me some. I'll give you another example. Dave, go ahead.
King David.
Absolutely. When we're looking at David and Goliath, you know, from what I understand, you know, they act like David was like, I don't know, the pretty boy, like he wouldn't do nothing. But look at what happened. This heathen.
I'm knocking, sir.
Go ahead, Azariah.
I'm a con, if I may. When in the lion's den, and also entering that furnace, you know.
Right.
The furnace of flame.
Okay, there you go. Come up with these examples. Think about that. Think about these men. Think about these situations. Going back to what Trooper Marshala said with David and Goliath. Look at what he did. I mean, he used his slingshot to bust Goliath upside his head, but he also took his own. He used Goliath's sword. Go ahead.
Judas Maccabees, Salakia.
Give me some on Judas Maccabees. I know you're going to give it to me. Go ahead.
The feast of dedication, when he
there we go.
You know.
There we go.
When he went to wage war on the oppressor, Salakia.
Mm-hmm. Now you said Judas Maccabees, which makes me think about the book of Maccabees. I think it's chapter 7, if I'm not mistaken, of the mother and the brothers who were slaughtered for not eating the swine's flesh. Am I correct? Let's see here. Let's see. Maccabees, chapter 7. You talking about fearless. Hold on a second here. Let's see if we can find this. As I'm trying to find it, basically, they were trying to make these brothers eat swine's flesh, and he tortured them. You understand? You know the story that I'm talking about?
Salakia, sir. Salakia, all the one.
Go ahead, Yahweh die. I mean, also Yahweh die.
Yeah, there were two different stories. The story that I was talking about is when the Feast of Dedication. The story you talking about is the 7 sons and their mama, you know, not having to, they did not eat the pork. They stood up to the king and lost their life. That's in Second Maccabees.
Yeah, I knew it was different, but when you said Maccabees, it just reminded me of that. The water for that Second Maccabees. Just a second here. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 7. We may touch on that. With basically how those brothers were tortured. Go ahead, sis.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it was mentioned, but Silas, would he be considered fearless?
Silas, just a second. Let me see here. I believe so. While I'm looking that up, brother, what do you have?
I was going to say the apostles, being that they were being hunted and things of that nature. Paul was, they tried to kill him a couple of times.
Absolutely.
He still kept doing the work.
You're exactly right. They had to be fearless to continue in this work. Right, Silas. Just a second, sis. Yes, you know what? I need to do some more reading on Silas, but I'll get back with you. I'm sure that is an example, for sure, of someone who was fearless. Because as I'm looking through he was running with a lot of With the brother who was running with Paul, actually. Yes, I would say if he was running with Paul, then yes, he definitely had to be a fearless brother, because as we know that Paul, he went to prison and he still did his thing while he was in there. So we understand that he also had to be fearless. But yes, those are all great examples of brothers. And you go into David and Goliath, obviously the ultimate being Yahushua. When we're looking at the... Go ahead, Op.
Would you also say Peter? Because he did cut somebody's ear off for talking about Yahushua.
I mean, he did do that. I mean, he did that. He wasn't supposed to, but he definitely was fearless. You know, and Peter, he's the cornerstone of the church, so he had to be fearless. He's that example. Absolutely. Anybody who was running with Yahushua had to be fearless. Because if they weren't, now of course, they had their times when they, I guess you can say, they didn't have the faith that they were supposed to have. But they were still taught. They still come into the understanding and became men that were fearless. And of course, looking at what they went through, the adversity, just like the brother was saying, the apostles and what they dealt with to continue to put this truth forth and to go out there and continue to do it, you had to be fearless. Now, as I continue, give me let me see, we go to this. Give me Joshua 1:7. The book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 7.
Sir, the book of Joshua, chapter 1 and verse 7. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law, which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whitherso thou goest.
Right, stop right there. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law. It takes courage to follow the law. It takes courage and strength to, and it takes discipline to do this. As I was speaking earlier, in order to wage war in this truth against our oppressors, we have to be willing to do any and everything that the law requires of us. And if we aren't doing those things, we won't have the strength nor the courage to do what it takes to go out and fish men. We won't have the ability to do what it takes to learn, understand, and teach this truth. We won't have the ability to do what it takes to stand before our family and say, I'm not going to celebrate Christmas. I'm not going to celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm not going to do any of these things with you. Although you're my family, you're not my family in this truth. It takes courage to stand before your family and do that, and to separate yourself from them. We have to face many, how do I put it, snarky looks, comments, which, you know, those things are nothing, but it's coming from your family, people that you deal with a lot of times on a daily basis. But to face those things, knowing that you're now in the truth, there's courage that comes with that. It's built upon as you continue to do it, as you grow in this. Like I said, and I'll continue to say it, we can't war against our oppressors if we aren't following the law, because we understand that the battle isn't against flesh and blood. It's a spiritual battle that we're in. And you can't fight this spiritual fight without following the law. You have to follow the law, because I know within myself, the things that I was doing in the world as a Christian, I was a second from being swallowed up by Satan. I was a second from being swallowed up by the things that these devils had me out there doing. And then when I decided to leave from the streets and or operate as a Christian, there are things that I left that I pushed to the side, but I didn't have the strength to maintain it. There were a lot of things that were swept under the rug that weren't dealt with because I didn't have the fear or the tools to not partake in the things that I was in. But as I found this truth, as the Most High was dealing with me, and I come into this truth, I was then able to recognize the things that I was doing and apply them to my life. But it took the law to apply it. So all the things that I was doing in the world as a Christian, they remained. Once I started following the law, I could see the things that I was doing and I can understand how to deal with them. And they were being destroyed. Those demons were being defeated. So that right there built the courage that was needed. But also that wisdom brought forth the understanding of how I was supposed to operate in this truth. You understand that if you aren't following the law, you are susceptible to anything and everything that this world has to offer to destroy you. Whatever the world has to offer, it will destroy you if you don't have this foundation. You will sink, you will fall, you will be destroyed every single time. And if I could speak for a second on a situation that I was just in, I spoke on it a couple of weeks ago. I went to the doctor and I thought that what I had was a cyst on my neck. Come to find out, not to be long-winded about this situation, come to find out it wasn't a cyst. It was a mass about the size of an egg that's in my left thyroid in my neck. Normally the doctors say that they start to check or get worried when the cyst or when that mass is about the size of a dime. Well, this is the size of an egg, a little bit bigger than an egg in my neck. So the doctor said to me, I'm pretty certain that it's cancer. Because of the size of it, I'm pretty sure that that's what's going to come back. But what we want to do is make sure that you get an ultrasound guided biopsy so that we can test for sure. So at this point, at first when he said it, it kind of hit me. But then I was like, well, it is what it is. I need to focus on making sure that I don't slack in any of the work that I have to do for the school and for my brothers and sisters out there who need me to be out there. So my focus kept being, stay focused on this truth and what I need to do. With that, some time went by. I let my folks know, of course, there was fear in them. And, you know, they're not in the truth. So, of course, they're like, well, yeah, we need to pray, this, that, and the other. And I'm saying to myself, well, Most High is not going to hear your prayer. Y'all go do what you do. But with that, I could have had this moment where I had fear. But I didn't, because my thought process was my people. My thought process was to stay focused on what it is that I need to do to build this nation. With that, there was courage. Of course, when I spoke with Captain Rataziah, who encouraged me and told me immediately, you're fine, don't sweat it. He said it as though he knew 100%, and he did. Because with that, I had the biopsy. The very next day I got the information back, the results that it's not cancer. So Yahweh shot for that. But also, some time had to go by, and once I let the doctor know, or once that got back to the main doctor, he said to me, well, yeah, you still need to come in because they want to have surgery to cut this mass out of my neck. So I go to the doctor this morning. And because, like I said, this has been going on for the period of about a month. Go to the doctor this morning, and he's talking to me saying, hey, I don't understand it. The size of this, it's amazing, but we've got good news. You know, you don't have cancer, as you already know. Some people just have large nodules in their thyroids, I guess. And that's what he said, I guess, because he didn't understand the God of the Bible. He didn't understand the God that I serve, that I live for, that I do this work for. He doesn't know who that is. And of course he wouldn't, because he's an oppressor. But I'm sitting there listening to him. My mother's there because he wants to make sure that a family member's there to hear what's going on. Now, my mother's a Christian. She's got all these questions. I've already accepted what the deal is. It's been said, okay, cool, I don't have cancer. And then he tells me, well, the good news is we don't have to have surgery either. I'm going to send you to an endocrinologist to have him look at some things, maybe give you some medication to cause it to shrink. But other than that, you're good. Just come back here about 6 to 12 months and we'll check you again and make sure everything's good. Now, most people would hear these things when the doctor tells them cancer, and immediately they're riding their wheel. Immediately they're telling the whole world, do this, do that, and the other. They're fearful. There was no fear in me. Go ahead, Op.
I mean, what you're bringing out is real heavy right now. And, thank the Most High for the I.S.U.P.K.
That's right.
Just us being in the truth. And when you was going through that situation, the prayers went up. And, like, for the people in the world, they don't understand how important the law, statutes, and commandments are for the Most High to hear you. I got a precept in Proverbs 28:9 that I like to bring out.
Go ahead.
Book of Proverbs chapter 28 verse 9. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination.
That's right.
And
go ahead.
And they don't understand that in the world. Like, for us in the I.S.U.P.K, we know that, and we don't like you said, we don't fear anything because we know we doing everything the Most High is asking us to do. Salaki.
That's right. He says he'll never leave nor forsake us. So with that, I understand that it was just a test. Looking at it and understanding that I could have, if I were fearful, if I didn't have courage, getting that news would have done something to me. But all it did was make me work more. That's really what it did. It didn't stop me because I am a priest and prophet in the I.S.U.P.K. under commanding General Yahanna, and of course, ordained by the Most High. So with that, understanding that fearless is being fearful is not an option. And going back to what you're saying, yes, they don't understand that their prayer isn't heard because they aren't following these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's why they are afraid. My mother is afraid. My father is afraid. They'll say things like, well, be careful when you go out there. You got to be careful. You got to watch out and pay attention to that. And I'm a grown man. I get it. I understand that they're want to be careful, but they're afraid. They don't know that I'm not afraid to die. Now, do I think about when I'm gone, do I think about them and how they carry on? Yes, that has gone through my mind to know that they won't be able to deal the way I understand that I have to deal if something were to happen to them. Not that I want anything to happen, but understanding that the courage that it takes to be in this truth is no small task. Our everyday life is tested, and there's something that is going to test us to see. Are we going to turn away? Are we going to deny Christ? Or are we going to stand bold in it? We have to stand bold every single day in this truth. We can't slip. Now, do brothers fall? Absolutely they do. But what do? They get back up and they continue to push forward. But I want it to be understood to the men of Israel that right now is no time to be fearful. Our brothers, our sisters, our sons and our daughters, our mothers and fathers are depending on us to continue to bring forth this truth, to not put our sword down. I'm encouraged every day when I go down the street and I think about the fact that I've been given this responsibility to go out and teach my brothers and sisters, to be able to sit at this podium and to teach my brothers and sisters, because it's of nothing that I've done. It's of nothing that I've earned. Now, when I say earned, meaning I took that test and I am an officer, that's why I'm sitting here. But the Most High dealt with me. That's why I'm here. Because I didn't choose the truth. So we have to understand that. But maintaining it requires you to be fearless. Maintaining this truth requires fearlessness. Because when you're afraid, you won't do what it is you're supposed to do. It'll inhibit you. It'll slow you down from doing this work. It'll slow you down from going out teaching when you're supposed to teach. It'll slow you down from coming in and doing the work in this school that needs to be done. But if we continue to do those things in fearlessness, we'll continue to grow in that courage. The spirit of brotherhood is strong when you come together and you operate in it, and then you become even more fearless. But you have to be around your brothers, because anytime you're away, you lose strength. It's just like when someone goes to the gym. You go to the gym and you're working out hard 2-3 months in a row, and then you miss a couple of days because you want to take a break. Those couple of days turns into a week. That week turns into a month. Next thing you know, you haven't been in the gym in 2 or 3 months. You're not as strong as you were when you were going consistently. And what happens, you lose your strength. Same thing in this truth. You lose your courage. You are no longer fearless when you aren't coming in here operating within this brotherhood. It causes you to be afraid. It causes you to look at the things in the world and you become fearful of those things. In the world, when a gun is shot, some people jump. In this truth, we don't jump. And I'm speaking literally. There's been situations where someone may fire a gun, we keep on moving. When there's adversity going on at camp and the brother's up there speaking, he doesn't miss a beat regardless of what's going on around him, because there's no fear. He continues to read. He continues to stay on topic. He continues to do what he needs to do, because we can't be distracted by things that would distract men, weak men. So the importance of being around your brothers, the importance of holding on to this truth and operating in the law diligently, seeking after this truth within the law diligently, is a great responsibility. Because what you learn here in this truth, you take it back home to your wife and to your children, and you raise them up in it and teach them that they don't have to fear, because the Most High is with them. The Christian church, once again, does not do that. They don't have the ability to lay that foundation, because, hey, according to the Christian church, the law is dead. But in the street, you have this fake, I guess you can say a fake type of brotherhood, if you will, with street gangs, or even going into the oppressor's military. It gives you a false sense of courage, because you're walking out there, you got these high-powered weapons in your hands, so you feel like, well, I've got this gun, no one can do anything to me. But understand this, when the I.S.U.P.K hits the street, when we're out there teaching, the brotherhood is our weapon. We don't have any knives or guns with us. The brotherhood is our weapon. There's no fear. We don't care if you have knives and guns with you. We have our brotherhood. We have the Most High. So we know what the deal is. So we face any type of adversity. So black man, Hispanic man, Native Indian man that are watching, I want you to understand the importance of following the law, statutes, and commandments, the importance of coming into your culture, because once you come into your culture, you'll find out that the men who were before you in this truth, who held it, were fearless men. They were warriors. You aren't taught these things in church. You're taught how to submit. That's what you're taught. As a man, you're taught how to submit to another man. And that man that you're submitting to is your oppressor. That man that you're submitting to is Caesar Borgia, the white Christ that you look at, the white Jesus that you worship. And that right there, I mean, you're worshiping a homosexual. That's going to make you weak too. And that's the Christian church for you, unfortunately. But as I continue, I want you to know that there's a place that you can go to where you can build that strength and courage and understand what it is to be a man. Now, when I say understand what it is to be a man, as I said earlier, I'm 46 years old, but I've been in this truth now year and a half to close to 2 years. So I'm young, but the Most High has given me an ability to have a drive to come and do this work. And when I say come and do this work, meaning whatever needs to be done in the school, whatever needs to be done outside the school, you have to have fearlessness to do it, to go ahead and get it done. Because I could be weak and say, you know what, I don't feel like doing it today. I don't want to do it. It could be something called upon you at the last minute. A weak person is going to say, you know what, they'll come up with an excuse. And there was a time in my life when I was that brother, when I would come up with excuses for things. But I can't do that now in this truth, because it's a great responsibility to me. And I don't want the Most High to smash me. because he gave me this. I can't be lukewarm. I have to be hot in this. I got to move. I got to work. I cannot stop because the men who are above me didn't stop. They laid this foundation. So I can't be the one who's unraveling, who's picking these bricks up that they've already put down. I need to be continuing to stack upon those bricks and that foundation, and it takes courage to continue to go out there and do that. But I want you to know you can come into the I.S.U.P.K. and you can learn what it is to be fearless. You can learn what it is to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. Now, earlier, I was talking about how within the holidays, we can't celebrate them. And if that's something that's hindering us, then there's no way we can say that we are fearless, because if you can't look at your family in the eye and say, I can't celebrate Christmas or I can't eat that turkey on Thanksgiving, you can't be in the I.S.U.P.K. This is not the place for you. The IUIC may be the place for you.
Right.
But here, it's definitely not. You are required to do what it takes to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments to a T. If you have an issue or something that you don't understand, you go to your brother that is above you and you get counsel. You go to Captain Rataziah, you go to Officer Yarmaya, and you get counsel to get understanding on how it is that you need to move, because they will speak to you and let you know what it is that you have to do in order to maintain this. One of the brothers that I speak with is Officer Ibaria. Now, this brother right here, much younger than I am in age, but when it comes to wisdom, he has a wisdom, and I think his name means from the past, if I'm not mistaken. And he definitely has that old type of wisdom that he deals with when I talk to him, and it encourages me. It makes me want to go out and do more. You have to find a brother that you can go and talk to who's going to encourage you to go out and be fearless, to go out and be strong, to let you know. And that's brothers have that strength to be able to talk to you and say certain things that'll make you say, you know what, yeah, this isn't that bad, or yeah, I need to move like this, or yeah, I need to move like that, because that brother came in before me and he warred in this truth. So I listened to him. You have to find that. In the world, you can't find a person that you can go to. Who did they go to? 40, 50 years ago? Martin Luther King. He was a coward. He told our people nothing. Who else do they go to? Al Sharpton tells our people nothing. Any Christian pastor tells our people nothing. When we go to the Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or Farrakhan tells our people nothing. He has his men out there with the little bow ties and, bald heads, no mustache, no beard, have them hit the street and thinking that they're fearless, but they're not. Every one of them are cowards. All of them are. You have to find someone that you can go to. And the only place that you can go where you're going to find men who are fearless, who will teach you this truth, is the I.S.U.P.K. under Commander General Yahanna.
That's right.
Who never put his sword down. Who continued to war in this truth so we can be right here where we are right now. If he did not continue to do what he was doing, I wouldn't be sitting here. Now understand this. Many people will think that we worship Commanding General Yahanna. No, we worship the Most High. We've been ordained of the Most High. Just as Commanding General Yahanna was ordained to be, right now, the leader over us, over Israel. Right now here, doing this work. Understand that. And it took him to be fearless in order for that to be done. So I don't want it to get it twisted for anyone that is watching, or in the class, if you will, that we worship a man. The man that we worship is the Most High. We worship him. But our strength, we know that our strength comes from the Lord. But we have been taught by following these laws, statutes, and commandments that General Yahanna has taught us and pushed down through the years of how to move. It is the greatest thing that I've ever been a part of, is the Most High's army. And that's what we are right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple examples for myself when I was facing adversity. Since I've been in the truth, and because of the truth, I was able to maneuver through it with courage and not be phased at all. Situations where I was caught up with a situation at my slavery where I was accused of, how do I put it? People were afraid of a comment that I made because what we do is we have these meetings on Thursdays where we discuss safety measures within our company of what happens if you have an active shooter. And because I have a militant mindset, because I know that I'm a warrior, I take these type of things serious. So when someone is giving these instructions, there's things that I already know, but then they're breaking them down of how we're supposed to move. You have other brothers in there who they like to play. They don't know what it is. And these are Judite brothers who like to play and cut up. Then you got these oppressor women in there, and then you have a Judite sister in there, two of them, who you may as well say, for lack of better words, they love their oppressor. They're just like them. While we're having this meeting, I said to them, I wouldn't come to any of you if something were to go down because right now you're not taking it serious. I wouldn't put my life in any of your hands. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because when they talk about putting your life in someone's hands, my life is in the hands of the brothers that are above me. My life is in the hands of the brothers that are next to me when we go out to camp, hearing this truth. So when I came in here, I had to pay attention because I understood that that's how they move, and I had to pay attention to who I was dealing with. I had to know the brothers that I labored amongst. Well, I knew the people that I labored amongst within my slavery. And when I made my comment saying that I would never come to any of them in a case of an active shooter, knowing that most of the times when it happens, you're not going to recognize, or it's a person who you wouldn't think that's going to do it because it's normally a disgruntled employee who will come in here and shoot the place up. That's the comment that I made. From that comment, a week later, my company security calls me. No, my manager calls me and tells me, hey, you're not allowed to come back to work. You're under investigation. And of course I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm thinking he's got to be joking. I said, well, why am I under investigation? I'm thinking someone's lied about something. He said, well, I can't discuss it with you. Security will call you. A day later, security calls me and tells me that, actually, I ended up finding out before that next day from some of the people because they had to be interviewed. The security had to interview people about the comment that I made. I was on the brink of losing my job because someone made the comment of saying that they were afraid because of the comment that I made. So, as I'm looking at this, I'm looking at my livelihood. I'm looking at, okay, I have bills I have to pay. I have a mother and father who I help financially with things. This right here can't go down. So in that moment, of course, I'm young in the truth at this time, and I'm looking at it saying, okay, what am I going to do? I could have panicked, or I could have, or I could just say, okay, we'll see how it plays out. Part of me was like, well, I need to go ahead and call a lawyer now. I don't know what's going on. I might go to jail. So my mind was racing. Then I had to stop and remember that the Most High will definitely prepare a table for me in front of my enemies. And that's exactly what he did. Because when security went ahead and interviewed everyone, and I stopped, I said, I'm not going to worry about it. They interviewed everyone. And the majority of the people all said, well, no, this brother, he's just serious about his job. He's serious about what he does. He didn't say anything to threaten anyone. We don't know why that was said. They called me to come back to work, and they interviewed me. I told them the same thing that I said. They understood it, and they laughed. And they said, basically, the issue is someone probably wanted to get rid of you by making this comment. You're a big black guy. Maybe they just didn't like what it was that you said, or maybe you have a work ethic that they don't, which is definitely part of it. That being said, I looked at everything that could have happened, and I pushed it to the side because I knew there was no need for me to fear, because whatever happened, be it I was fired or kept my job, Most High had me, and he did. I kept my job. I'm still there doing exactly what I was doing, but better. So I say, once again, to be fearless, because the second you fear, you'll make a decision. I could be like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to quit and I'm going to go find another job. Being fearful will cause you to do things in haste, but operating with wisdom will make you do things not with haste, but the understanding of this is how I should move. And with that, what I've learned is when I make a decision based upon me following these laws, statutes, and commandments and how I'm supposed to operate, it's made things much smoother for me. Because when you don't have the foundation of the law, what it does is it causes you to try to deal with things yourself. It causes you to try to come up or break things down with your own understanding. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to break things down with my own understanding. I have these laws, statutes, and commandments that I live by, and the work is done. I just have to operate within it. So understanding that I've been through a few things, a little bit of adversity, that gives me some examples of what it is to be fearless, I'm confident that as I continue to grow in this truth, and all of you in this class, that you will come into situations where what it is to be fearless will come to mind, and you'll think about how you should operate and the things that you shouldn't do. And the reason why you'll think about how you should operate is because you'll have the foundation of the law. This is our law class, so that's why I continue to go back to the law and the importance of it. Because if you don't have the law, you have nothing. You can say that you're an Israelite. You can be Israel. And a lot of people, they'll find out who they are. But just because you're an Israelite does not mean anything if you aren't following these laws, statutes, and commandments. If you aren't coming in and getting the proper understanding that is required to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. Because if not, I promise you, you will fall. You can't function without it. Give me the book of Hebrews 13, 5-6, so we can understand that we have the Most High, we have our brotherhood, and that we're not alone. And in order to do what we're supposed to do, you have to have that encouragement, your brothers. You have to have that foundation of people who are pushing you to do what it is that you're supposed to. The book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 5-6. Baba Kashah.
Come on, sir. The book of Hebrews, chapter 13 and verse 5. Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he has said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee.
Stop right there. Stop right there. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. If that right there doesn't give you the courage to do what it is you need to do, I don't know what is. I don't know what will. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Continue on to verse 6.
Verse 6. So that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do to me.
There we go. The Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do to me. There's no one at my slavery that can do anything that will make me fearful. There's no one in these streets that can do anything that will make me fearful. Because, once again, myself along with all my brothers, we are fearless. There's nothing that can be done that's going to ever change that thought process. And when you're operating with fearlessness, you can follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. When you're operating with fearlessness, you can go out there and you can build a nation. You can go out there and do the things you need to do for your people. But if you do not have this courage, if you do not understand that the Most High has given you the tools to go out and do what you need to do because you're afraid, what are you doing? What can you do? What is your purpose? Matter of fact, if you aren't following the laws, statutes, and commandments, the only purpose that you have right now would be death. Because there's life in this law. There's life in this law. Matter of fact, read verse 6 one more time, Baba Kashah.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 13 and verse 6. So that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do unto me.
There we go. I will not fear what man shall do unto me. The Lord is my helper. I mean, there's so many verses that we can go into about how the Most High has given us courage and letting us know that he would never leave nor forsake us. that he is our strength, that he's my shield. We understand these things, but we have to learn to apply it. You can say it, but to apply it is something altogether different. And those are things that, speaking for myself, I'm applying these things. So it helps me to do better in my job. It helps me to be a better brother to my sister. It helps me to be a better son to my mother and father. But it also helps me to be a better brother, a better warrior here amongst my brothers in the I.S.U.P.K. It helps me be better around them, knowing where my strength comes from. But when we look at this world, I tell you, when we look at the things that are happening around us and the way we're acting, especially with all the feminine men and the homosexual men, you can't help but to see weak, because there's definitely fear there. There's no strength there at all. Every time I look at these so-called rappers, the things that they're wearing, the things that they're doing, the things that they're saying, I don't see any strength there. And a lot of times it angers me on one side, but then I have compassion on the other side, because I'm like, wow, look at this. They don't know any better. But then when you try to tell them, they don't want to listen. They think that they're hard. They think that they're strong, but they're not. When I see a black man, I know a lot of times, and I've spoken about this before, if I'm at a grocery store and I'm going past another brother, a lot of times he'll be mean mugging me. He'll have this look in his eye. But the reason he has that look in his eye is because, of course, yeah, he's trying to be hard, but he's afraid. That's really ultimately what it is. And what I'll do to that brother is say, oh, what's going on, Brett? What's going on, man? How you doing? You doing all right? Once I speak to him, all of a sudden that so-called hard exterior breaks. And then they'll look at me like, oh, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm cool. And I'll keep walking. Because all I want to do is let him know I'm not your enemy. You don't have to fear me. That's what happens in the world, because the brothers, they fear their own people. So they have to have this exterior. They have to walk in a certain type of way and say, I'm going to get you before you get me. You don't have to be like that in this truth. In this truth, it's brotherhood. I don't have to look at my brother and think what he might or might not do to me. I can look at that brother and not have a worry in the world, because this is my brother. This is who I'll go to war with. And that's something that I've never experienced. That's something that I never had in the world. And I ran the street with a lot of hoodlums. I've done a lot of things. And they were afraid, and I guess you can say that I was also afraid as well. But being in this truth, being with these brothers, there's nothing like it. You have a courage, you have a brotherhood, you have a foundation that has been laid of how we're supposed to operate and how we're supposed to move. And as I continue, I'm going to close out here shortly. Get me, when I'm talking about the topic that I just said with when I see these brothers and how they operate, get me Deuteronomy 28 and 66. Bob Kashah, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and 66. And read it when you got it.
Kamel Khan, sir. Kamel Khan, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life.
Now, when you talk about this right here, of course, I know when I was in the streets, my thought process wasn't even about dying. I was just going. I was just living. You got a lot of brothers who don't know if they're going to make it to the next day or to the next year. You have a lot of brothers who will say, I don't expect to make it to 30. I don't expect to make it to 25. Not only are they thinking like that because their life might be taken because of how they're living, but also because of our oppressor and how these police go and just kill us at will. They have no assurance of their life, and that's a curse. And that's also something that brothers fear. They fear that because they don't know that if I'm following these laws, statutes, and commandments, that right there has nothing to do with me. My job is to go and to teach the brothers who are suffering from this curse of thinking my life could be taken today, my life could be taken tomorrow. But guess what? What if it is? If you're in this truth, what if it is? You understand that you will be back. But when you're not in this truth, of course you're fearful. You're afraid of everything. You're afraid, and what you'll do when you're afraid, you react with fear instead of reacting with wisdom. You can't react with wisdom. because you don't have the understanding of the law, because you aren't following the laws.
Salaki, Adawan.
Go ahead, Op.
Salaki. Just going back on a little background and stuff like that. Like, I come from a gang bang history,
Mm-hmm.
and when you out there in the streets, like you say, like you always looking over your shoulder. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if your homeboy gonna sneak you, or he gonna do whatever, or the police coming, or whatever's going on, and you never get a good night rest. You never get just a time where you can relax or do anything.
That's right.
But when you actually lead that, and you come into the truth, like you say, you fearless. Like you just don't care. I mean, not saying that you don't care, but you don't fear what you used to.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You just walk a different way, and you just don't fear it.
No, you're right. It's a heavy point. The things that used to be something that would bother you, or like you said, that would cause fear, it no longer does that, because we're moving in these laws. We're moving towards something. We know that there's work to do. We know that we can't do that work if we're afraid. So, when you go ahead, Op.
I got a precept if I may.
Go ahead.
This is on the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 13. Watch ye, stand fast in faith, quit you like men, be strong. Salakia.
Absolutely. Be strong. Be strong in your faith. Be courageous. Understand that this book is the truth. This book is given to us, and it's a set of rules that we're supposed to follow. So why is it that we fear? There's no need to. No need to fear at all. And I think I'm going to close it out with one more scripture. Let's see here. Let's see. I believe it's in 1 Kings, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Yeah, I think I'll take that to give us an understanding of what men are supposed to do and what you aren't doing when you're in the Christian church, what you aren't doing if you aren't following these laws. Give me the book of 1 Kings, chapter 2, verse 2.
Sir. The book of 1 Kings, chapter 2 and verse 2. I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and shew thyself a man.
Now, shew thyself a man. Show that you are a man. Be strong. The only way that you can do that is by adhering to these laws, statutes, and commandments. That's the only way that you can be strong, a strong man, and not have your home ravaged, not allow your city to be taken, not allow your people to be taken. Follow these laws. Be strong. And with that, I'm going to close it out. Hand it over to powerful priest and prophet, the Pashkaya.
This I.S.U.K security announcements. Where the I.S.U.K started 1 West 125th Street, Hall, New York. Room for a new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister come to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are here to be saluted only. They are here to save themselves of the world. If they need traumatization, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the heads who speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment in the book of Numbers, chapter 19, verse 21, and the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 to 10. I.S.U.P.K means 10 in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the church department of teacher. Priest fund. Free will offer a priest not mandatory. Whatever amount you like to give. The next holy convocation is the Feast of Hanukkah. There's going to be the space of 8 days starting from Sunday, November 28th, sundown. You can find this in the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 52 and 61. Remind any Akim or Off-Walk-Yun to check the bulletin board in the hallway if you're in the building sitting right here. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black, boot, shirt, pad, headband, or scarf. And also to Google the address every time you are headed to the school. For that, a item, you stand. Give one quick salute to the men and the teacher. Men is. Come in. Yeah, stand, yeah. Stand through here. That's awesome. So. Men Israel, I.S.U.P.K, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahshua
Yahweh
What I said to you in the Hebrew, may the Most High in the name of Christ bless you. Yah, my top, me hands down. Sorry, turn to the sister. Give one curse salute to the sisters in the building and also on the phone. Men Israel, I.S.U.P.K, Barak, Yahweh Shema El Taba Hashem Yahshua. What I say to you in Hebrew, may the Most High watch over you in the name of Christ. Yah, my top, class dismissed.